What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a found footage film. And as a lot of you out there know, found footage is one of my favorite genres. I absolutely love found footage filmmaking. I feel like, for how rough around the edges those movies are and how they often have lower budgets, it really showcases the talent of a filmmaker to create an environment that is immersive and an atmosphere that is like eerie and ominous and scary. And some people can execute it really well and others cannot. And this is one of the films on my list of want to watch found footage movies that I've seen people talk about over and over again. And for some reason, I hadn't gotten around to watching it. And I read the premise recently and was like, okay, I want to set aside the time to watch this. It sounds fascinating. I really think that it's going to be an excellent movie. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this movie today. And this movie is called by two different titles on different streaming services. So you kind of have to look. Right now it's streaming for free on Tubi and it goes by Final Prayer, but the original title for the film is The Borderlands. The Borderlands, or Final Prayer, is directed by Elliot Goldner. Vatican investigators are sent to the British West Country to investigate paranormal activity, and they find the events are more disturbing than they first imagined. So I was really excited to watch this movie, and it was awesome. This was a fantastic found footage film that I feel like does such an amazing job at creating a very immersive atmosphere that is genuinely creepy and unsettling. It does have some tropes that exist in the found footage genre, but it does such an amazing job at subverting those tropes and doing things that you're not necessarily used to seeing in every found footage movie. And I'm really excited to talk about it with you today. So at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to Deacon and Gray, who meet up at this house in the British countryside, and they are talking about this job that they are about to do together. And Gray works with tech. He's like an audio-visual guy, and he has been hired to this job to set up cameras and film everything that they are going to do at whatever this job is that they're trying to do. Deacon works for the Vatican, and he's worked for this sect of the Vatican that essentially what they do is they go to different parts of the world where people have claimed to see or do a miracle, and they are essentially there to figure out whether or not it's actually a miracle or a hoax created by the church to just draw attention to themselves. So they go to this very small church led up by this priest, and they get there. He has a congregation of like 3 to 4 people. When we see him giving a sermon, there's like no one in the audience. And they leave for the day, and he shows them this video from a christening that they did of this young child where all this stuff flies off the table, some things come off the wall, his nose starts to bleed, and they're all like, we've never seen anything like this before, this is unreal. The Vatican sees this video and they believe like there's enough here that it's worth investigating. And so these two guys have come to investigate, along with Mark, who shows up later, who is much more a by the book, thinks everything is a hoax, has no inclination that this is going to be real. And so the entirety of the film is these three investigating this church, setting up camera equipment, sound monitoring software, to see if there is something paranormal, spiritual, religious going on in this church, or did this priest just set it up to garner attention for himself? So as I said, I really liked this movie a lot. For starters, the performances here are fantastic. I feel like in a lot of found footage movies, you get a ton of throwaway characters, but they do a really great job in the first 10 or 15 minutes setting these characters up to where they're likable and they're actually really entertaining to watch. Their chemistry is great, especially Gray and Deacon. Their relationship that they form is fun to watch. They play off each other really well. There's some comedic beats. I feel like the chemistry between someone who is a skeptic compared to someone who has a little bit more of a belief system, it's fun to watch them have conversations with one another and kind of see where they're both coming from, which creates an interesting idea that the movie is trying to explore anyway. I loved the atmosphere here. They're clearly in this very small town, and there's like one bar and a few houses there. So you feel completely and totally isolated from the world, anyways. And then they have to go climb up this hill and get to this church that is literally in the middle of nowhere, which just makes it all the more unsettling. And what's so horrifying about it is it's literally in the middle of nowhere. It's eerie and isolated, and the characters, like, if something goes wrong, it's not like you can run to safety quickly. And I love that. Taking away that security blanket makes the movie more terrifying. And the church, I think they said it's built in like the 1200s, like it's incredibly old, which means it has years and years of history. So when you're in there, it's just this creepy old, there's like graffiti in the church. The floors are beat up, the walls are beat up. I love that the environment in this movie has so much atmosphere and ambiance. And what really took me by surprise is it hits a lot of the tropes you see in these movies. Even if you want to compare it to something like Paranormal Activity, these guys, they're wearing body cams essentially that are like up near their eyes, where they're filming everything that's going on while they're walking around. But there's also a ton of static camera shots throughout the film. They like screw in cameras throughout the church so that you can see different areas of the church, and you're like, oh, this is similar to like Paranormal Activity, like any of those things. But what I like about this movie is so much of it is about what you're hearing compared to what you're seeing. This movie has phenomenal sound design, really horrifying sound design, and so much of what these characters are reacting to is sounds that they're hearing. And I was watching this with headphones on, and it was really eerie. It like sent chills up my spine, because like you'd get moments where something would whisper in your ear, and it's just truly nightmarish. The people who worked on the sound design in this movie did a phenomenal job. And there is some horrific imagery in this sometimes, and why this movie isn't perfect to me is they rely a little bit on the camera glitch out effect, and then like show something for a fraction of a second and then cut away. But there's also like some really ingenious moments here too. There's one scene in particular where one of the characters goes into a graveyard and pans down at a tombstone, pans up and comes back down, and something about it shifts. And I loved the attention to detail in that, because it starts off the series of really creepy events that you witness as the audience member. And the third act goes in a direction you're either going to really like it because it takes a really harsh twist, or you're going to think it's ridiculous and you're not going to appreciate it. And I think, like, as far as the end is concerned, I like that it goes in such a ridiculous direction because of how restrained it is for most of the movie. I think that it's earned. You can go completely bombastic and insane in the last 10 minutes when you've been so reserved, and when you've built up so much tension and suspense. And I didn't think the end was completely satisfying, but I did enjoy it and I did appreciate it. And you know, I've watched a ton of found footage films in my life. I'm a big fan of the genre, and this is just a really solid found footage film. It's not the best I've ever seen. There are a lot out there that are marginally better, but I do think that it has a really great story and fantastic character writing, and a world that's really easy to suck yourself into. And I feel like I could have watched these characters in multiple movies and enjoyed different cases that they would go experience together. And that means that the filmmakers did something right, in my opinion. So have you seen The Borderlands or Final Prayer? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was great. Really enjoyed the performances. I thought it was suspenseful and engaging, and I'm looking forward to watching it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.